Why targeted individuals should not hook up with other TI, and why they do anyway and almost always regret it, by Michael Sweeney. I will put the link in the video description. The first thing to understand is who we're talking about: targeted individuals. The term is military in origin, but is used by the intelligence community and law enforcement. That's apt, because even though the kind of TI I'm talking about are not a bona fide target of these groups for some justifiable cause, not terrorists, not criminals, not enemy spies, the technology and methods used in their targeting were developed by the military and intelligence communities and corporate and collegiate partners. More critically, the attacks they suffer as a result by electronic weapons, gaslighting, street theater, dirty tricks, and psychological warfare and so on, are more often than not at the hands of those self-same developers, as well as the members of law enforcement. Not officially, of course. There is no such thing as the boogeyman. Ask any judge, psychiatrist, congressman, or lawman. They seem content to overlook the fact that the whole of the political control technology employed is applied primarily for the purpose of making the victim seem to be a paranoid dog schizophrenic. They certainly overlook the mountain of official government documents and other evidence that every symptom of schizophrenia can be simulated by such technology. Enough of that. Well, not really, but to get more, read my book, MC Realities, which is the only self-defense book on topic on the market I'm aware of. What we really want to talk about is the tendency of TI to want to hook up with other TI, so for that they hope will provide a means of mutual support and protection. By hook up, of course, I mean close interpersonal relationships, which include sharing of housing with or without romantic intentions. Yes, well, and no to that option, to that notion. While there is some useful psychological support value in having someone of kindred spirit to share in burdens born of like difficulties, as a rule there are exceptions. I have long advised against it in the strongest of terms. Here's why. What I see as the risks involved: it decreases security rather than increasing it, as it can result in each TI gaining as new enemies those involved in the targeting of the other TIs. But that is not the worst of it, because where that happens, it becomes such a tangle that if someone like myself comes along to try and resolve the issue, there are suddenly too many clues to sift through to determine anything truly useful in defense or offense, a matter which is tough enough to resolve with just one set of attackers. 2. It always turns out that one of the TI is accused of being a perpetrator disguised as a TI in order to get closer in and do more damage. More likely, all will end up accusing each other, even where no one is guilty. It is the nature of the natural paranoia generated by being targeted, which fosters such fears. And any such fears, when unfounded, always grow until some bit of circumstance seems to tender hard evidence when it may simply be coincidence. But it is also true that many times one or more of the parties always are perps. 3. Any defense strategies tend to become doubly complex and twice as difficult to manage to good end, which means each TI is nurtured somewhat in the effort. There can also develop bickering over the best approach, which further hampers such efforts. There are reasons for my advice is ignored. And of course, only a small percentage of TI even get to hear my advice. For every TI we hear about, there are many, many more who are afraid to tell anyone out of fear of being termed mentally ill. 2. I'm not exactly a household name, so not all the ones who do come forward know I even exist. But here are the reasons my advice is ignored by those who do get to hear it. They are so they are so emotionally victimized that the temptation to find a leverage some small hope of kindred support and understanding overrides logic. In like manner, they are so depressed by the constant lack of privacy and security that the hope of increased security from an helpmate also overrides logic. B. They foresee a possible savings of money through shared experiences, money being something all IT tend to have too little of thanks. Okay. Money being something all IATIs tend to have too little of thanks to the targeting, which commonly involves financial dirty tricks such as repeat sabotage of vehicles, cancelling insurance policies, and worse, including getting them fired with rumor mongering. C. They often feel they have been around the block as a TI long enough to spot a perp and have some confidence they are insulated from his wrong, always wrong. Also always. A simple but tragic case example. A TI client who had suspended my services for a time elected to hook up with another TI. The basis was they were both on the run in hopes of evading targeting, or so it seemed. My client was already mobile because of the need to travel in work duties, a respected person of useful credentials in their chosen field. As it happens, the other TI claimed to have been forced to vacate a safe house provided by FFCHS, freedom from covert harassment and surveillance, claiming it unsafe there and of poor sanitary condition. That was far from the true reason, but there was no means to check it out, and the client did not even attempt it, presuming in error anyone coming through FFCHS must be a legitimate victim. So it was concluded of mutual benefit that they might travel together and share expenses, defenses, and information about their individual targeting. The first few days went well enough, but before a week has transpired, it ended in disaster. The short version is that it appears the refugee from FFCHS was not only a perp, but a sadistic, psychopathic criminal of another sort. He produced a gun, made threats, and later raped his companion multiple times, and then ran off owing money. This took place immediately after I was invited to meet with them, it perhaps being my presence which spooked the perp into flight, perhaps not. But he has also gotten access to her email and sent out email in her name, presumably to sabotage relationships. And there was an incident which seems to have been aimed at thwarting me from providing helps, perhaps intended to scare me away. A third-party companion player showed up at our agreed upon meeting place, and their car was later in the day found in my personal parking spot where I live. It did not frighten me. Read my books and you will see I'm quite foolish about things which should perhaps frighten me, but it did not help my being involved either, as the refugee also tried to convince my client that she should no longer have anything to do with me. After it was made clear our relationship would continue, it was the same night that it all went sour, as described above. Summary: lessons learned, hopefully. Regardless of good intentions and hope, the risk of hooking up for mutual advantage is generally a risky affair. I only know of one instance where it worked out long term, and there were unusual circumstances which included adding third-party non-victim helps. These acted like a checks and balances to help get them over the rough spots. And to repeat, I'm talking about the natural growth of suspicion of each other which transpires even when one of them is not a perp. By all means, collaborate and share information online. Even meet in groups, large or small, to share information and give emotional support, but please try to avoid commitments to share living space and all that goes along with being targeted. It is a trap no matter how it plays out, one which leaves both sides feeling betrayed, hurt, and more frustrated than before, or one side victimized yet again to the same end. Please comment, page bottom, or contact me right at page top. Share, tweet this article. Visit my reader forum to promote your own cause or URL. I would also like readers to know about the Free Will Society to aid targeted individuals organized on Facebook as a group. Please give me a visit if it helps. Also, please know that I offer a free helps kit sample newsletter on political control technology and free 30 days online consulting to qyiz. And there is the link to contact him. So I will post the link in the video description. This was written on August the 25th. Thanks for listening.